Hi, this is Mike Fear from Now You're Cooking. Welcome to our Thursday evening demonstrations. And today, this English muffin is going to be demonstrating English muffins. English muffins are, I don't think they're very English. I think they're more American, but I learned how to make them when I first came over. And my wife and I used to have a bed and breakfast. So it's kind of deja vu for me to be making English muffins. Before we get started, I just want to make sure you know that Now You're Cooking is open for people to come in. We're open 7 days a week. Monday through Saturday, we are open from 10 until 5. And on Sunday, we're open 10 until 4. And so we just ask you to wear your face covering. We need a face covering over nose and mouth. And we will provide everything else for you as far as baskets or bags or whatever else you need, and of course our expertise. So given that, let's get started with English muffins. And to start off with, I like to get my stuff together and so get it all measured out. One thing, I'm going to measure my flour, and you'll see that it's 3.5 cups of flour, which to me is pretty close to a pound of flour. So I'm going to use this fabulous scale. This one, you just turn it on. I'll just set it down here. Turn it on right here. And you'll see it says 0 ounces. I'm going to put my bowl on there. And of course, now it's suddenly 21 ounces. But what I can do is hit the tare button. And if I hit it again, it will go to 0. Now I'm going to grab my flour, and I can measure my flour in here until I get 16 ounces. And there we go, 16 ounces of flour right there. And so now I have everything I need measured out. And I just shut this off, and I can set it aside. Really awesome scale. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pour in the 1/4 cup of warmed water, tepid water. And to the tepid water, I'm going to add a package of yeast. Now, if you're like me, I like to have a jar of yeast. And so how much is a package of yeast? Well, I've got this great little measuring spoon here. It's specifically for yeast, so that you measure out the equivalent of a package of yeast. If you want to, it's 2¼ teaspoons, so you can do that too, but just in case you need a yeast spoon. So I'm gonna just stir it a little bit. What we want to do is leave it to sort of dissolve. And as you see, it's sort of gets itself like started. The warmth is really important. Have warm water, and you'll see that we also are going to be adding some milk. It's very important to have the milk warmed. We're going to be using English muffin rings, and we sell English muffin rings. However, we have been told that our supplier is out, and so we have what we have, and I'm afraid that we're going to run out of these things. So when I started making them, I didn't know about these rings. So I went to the grocery store and I got myself some pineapple rings. And the beauty of the pineapple rings is you can cut around there and you can cut around there, and lo and behold, you have this, which is a much taller ring. It's probably too tall, but it does the job. And so this is one from my bed and breakfast days. So so you can be creative. If you can't get your English muffin rings, then you can be creative and do that. So I have everything else measured out, and so don't know if this has been 5 minutes, but let's pretend it has been. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add all the other ingredients. I need tablespoon of sugar. So have these OXO stores are great because I can use one hand to do everything. So I'm putting my sugar in here, and I only needed to use one hand if the other one's occupied in some way, stirring or whatever. Now this is a half a tablespoon measure. So you need a teaspoon and a half of salt. So this one is a half a tablespoon, and that is a teaspoon and a half. There are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. It's good to know, what goes in these things. Here's my cup of, again, tepid milk. You can warm it in a saucepan, or if you like to use microwave, I'm always afraid I'll overheat it in the microwave, so I tend to use a saucepan. Vegetable oil, just 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil. You'll see I'm using, these are OXO. They come in a variety of sizes. They're great in the microwave. You can take something out, you won't burn yourself because they are this honeycomb of silicone seems to protect you from any heat. So there's 4 sizes. I use them just a ton. So here we have all the ingredients except for the flour. Now we're going to start putting flour in. And I'm not going to put all the flour in right away. I'm going to put probably 2/3 of it. And I'm going to give it a stir. And I'm going to try to get it stirred up as best I can. And actually there's a tool for that. And it's this tool right here. And my version of it is right here. Okay. I knew that there was something missing. So a lot of people think of this as a Scandinavian tool. I've heard people say a Danish whisk or a Swedish whisk, but it really, as you see, it really mixes the flour in nicely. And now I can add the rest. This is great for doing a starter, getting a starter going, or a poolish if you're making bread. And we have them with wooden handles, with metal handles, with rubber handles. But it's just a really handy thing to have. Again, they have been in really short supply too, but we think we have a pretty good supply. We hope so. Of course, all of you will be rushing in to buy them, and we'll probably run out. Okay, so I've pretty much mixed that together so it's nice and you see it's a very soft dough. So what I need to do now is I need to leave it for an hour to sort of proof. And what I'm going to do is I am going to grab my topper right here. It's a silicone top. We have a variety of these, just really good for proofing dough. And lo and behold, I have one that is nicely proofed already. You can see it's really puffed right up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape it out here a second, but I want some flour. And actually what I have taken to using is a shaker. It's kind of a handy way to, another OXO product, by the way. I think it was designed for whatever, cheese or pepper, or you can do, it's kind of neat because it's got the big holes like that, and if you turn it, let's see if I can get it, it's got little holes as well, so depending on what you're doing you can change the holes. So I'm using the big ones there because this is pretty wet stuff. Great little scraper here for dough. If you don't have one of these, it's really useful to have. So here I go. And this is a very wet dough, very wet. So I made English muffins yesterday, and I learned a pretty good lesson from that is when you're reading out of a book, don't get confused with which recipe. Because I started looking at the crumpet recipe and I put too much milk in. And you think this is a wet dough. You should have seen the one that I was working with yesterday. I was piling the flour in to, And you see it's pretty wet, but it's holding together. And you only really need to knead it a little bit. You don't need to knead it a ton. And once you have it to where you want it, you can just push it down. You don't need to use a rolling pin. You could use a rolling pin, but you want to push it down fairly flat. If you have it too thick, your English muffins might be a bit too thick. And so I think that looks pretty good to me. So the next thing I want to do is I want to cut these out. And where the cornmeal comes in is we put the cornmeal, just sprinkle it liberally, and this helps because it is such a wet mixture. When I cut them out, and I'm cutting them out with my old one here, and I'm setting them in here because they're going to proof for another 30 minutes before I actually, and I don't bake them. Well, they're sort of baked, but they're cooked on a griddle, in fact. And we were just talking about that. If you don't have a griddle, a great thing to do them in is a cast iron skillet. You can certainly do it in that. And so I'd probably place that one a little close. Don't place them too close, otherwise they'll join up, and you have a problem later. Okay. So pretty easy so far. I mean, I don't think you shouldn't be intimidated by this. This is really, and they are awesome tasting, especially if you've got some of Louisa's smoked salmon and her hollandaise, and you can poach an egg. That's kind of okay. Now I'm going to take this dough, still very soft, and I'm going to sort of knead it together again. So I want to try to get a couple more out of this. Again, nice and flat. Cut another one. Cut another one. And then, so how many is that? That's 1, 2, so about 12 English muffins out of a recipe. This last one will be an ugly English muffin, but it'll be as tasty as any of the others. So now, 30 minutes, they've got to rest and they should pop right up. And now you'll see what happens when you do put them too close together. So, they've puffed right up. Now, time for the griddle. This is the final part. I love butter, and I use butter to basically go on the inside of my muffin ring here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a few of these on, some different ones on here, and a little one there. Let's try out this new one, and we'll get some going here. And we'll put a little bit of butter in the middle of so they'll cook. Whoop. Okay, should work pretty well. Now what I have to do is cleverly, I think with some flour on my hands, pick these up. Oh, I didn't put enough cornmeal down. And then I'm just going to feed it right into the ring like that. And I'll just bring some more over and pop in. And 10 minutes on the first side, 5 minutes on the second side. And so we could be here for another 15 minutes while you see these cook, but probably you want to see what they're going to be like when you are done. And there you go. And nice and big, nice and soft, nice color to them, and you'll just love them. Plenty of butter. So there you go. You can start making English muffins. Don't forget that we are open 7 days a week, and I hope you come to see us. Make sure you wear your face covering when you come to see us. If you don't want to do that, please call us. We do have curbside pickup. If not, we'll see you next week, and thanks very much, and good night.